Hello and welcome. Namaste from New Delhi. You're watching DD India Live. I'm Gautam Roy. Coming up over the next 30 minutes. Italy is hosting world leaders including Zelensky in Rome for Ukraine's recovery. Prime Minister Meloni says participants pledged over 10 million euros for reconstruction. UK's Starmer and France's Macron decide to coordinate their nuclear deterrence for the first time, responding to rising threats in Europe. New ASEAN-India plan for action for years 2026-2030 adopted during the Foreign Ministers' meeting in Kuala Lumpur. And artificial intelligence is poised to reshape the restaurant hotel industry. Dubai is to debut a restaurant with an AI chef. First up, Rome is hosting a two-day conference on the reconstruction and recovery of Ukraine. Italian Prime Minister Giorgia Meloni has welcomed leaders. The conference is aimed at mobilizing international support and funds for Ukraine. The European Commission has announced $2.7 billion in the support of Ukraine. The funds include loan guarantees and additional grants from international and bilateral public financial institutions. The conference has pledged over $11.7 billion for the overall economic recovery of Ukraine.
The message we want to send entrepreneurs today is simple. Do not be afraid to invest, to build, to rebuild in Ukraine. Because investing in Ukraine's reconstruction is not a gamble. It's an investment in a nation that has shown more resilience than any other. But it is also an investment in peace, in the economic growth of all Europe, and in the security of our citizens.
German Chancellor Friedrich Merz has welcomed the launch of a European fund aimed at mobilizing private investment for the reconstruction of Ukraine at a high-level conference, again, this very conference in Rome.
Economic growth requires freedom for the private sector to flourish. This is particularly important in the case of Ukraine because the enormous cost of reconstruction cannot be financed through public funds alone. This is why you, Volodymyr, and I, when we met in Berlin a few weeks ago, met German companies which are active in Ukraine. What I can report back from that meeting is the enormous interest of private businesses in participating in Ukraine's reconstruction.
UK Prime Minister Keir Starmer has met French President Emmanuel Macron at Downing Street for a summit focused on deepening defence and nuclear cooperation. For the first time, the UK and France will coordinate their independent nuclear deterrence in response to extreme threats to Europe. UK and France are also working to reach a deal on undocumented migrants crossing the English Channel. This summit marks a significant milestone in UK-France ties, with both nations aiming to deepen their cooperation on defence, security and economic issues.
For us, it's about delivering the changes that the British people want to see. We all agree the situation in the Channel cannot go on as it is. So we're bringing new tactics into play and a new level of intent to tackle illegal migration and break the business model of the criminal gangs.
I'm pleased that this summit will firstly cement progress in terms of strategic thinking and joint action, but also enable us to move forward in terms of capabilities, including on more sensitive issues such as nuclear deterrence. Important work has been completed and we will return to this later.
European Commission President Ursula von der Leyen has survived a no-confidence vote in the European Parliament on Thursday. The motion failed to get two-thirds majority it needed to pass, with 360 parliamentarians voting against the motion while only 175 supporting it. The vote was initiated by far-right lawmakers who accused von der Leyen of undermining trust in the EU through unlawful actions. It was the first time since 2014 that a Commission President has faced such a motion. Then President Jean-Claude Juncker had also survived the vote. India's Minister of State for External Affairs, Pavitra Margarita, has co-chaired a productive ASEAN-India Foreign Ministers meeting in Kuala Lumpur in Malaysia with Secretary of Foreign Affairs of the Philippines, Teresa P. Lazaro. The leaders adopted a new ASEAN-India plan of action for the year starting 2026 till 2030. Aimed at expanding cooperation and strengthening comprehensive strategic partnership, ASEAN-India celebrate Year of Tourism this year. Discussions have been focused on ways and means to further enhance people-to-people relations. There have been some proposal to increase cooperation in digital domain, disaster management, defense, economy, the maritime area as well as health. And India's MOS External Affairs Pavitra Margarita has also met Secretary of Foreign Affairs of the Philippines, Teresa P. Lazaro, on the margins of the ASEAN-India Foreign Ministers meeting in Malaysia. The leaders discussed ways to further strengthen bilateral cooperation, acknowledge the long-standing friendship and 75 years of diplomatic relationship between the two countries. The minister also thanked the Philippines for solidarity with India in its fight against terrorism. Also on the sidelines of the ASEAN Foreign Ministers meeting, U.S. Secretary of State Marco Rubio has signed an agreement on civil nuclear cooperation with his Malaysian counterpart on Thursday. Speaking during the signing ceremony in Kuala Lumpur, Rubio said the MOU is an example of how it can be done at a time when other countries have expressed an interest in civil nuclear programs. The so-called 123 agreements established a legally binding framework for significant peaceful nuclear cooperation between the U.S. and its partners. Rubio also met Malaysian Prime Minister Anwar on the sidelines of the ASEAN meeting. Earlier, Washington's top diplomat joined foreign ministers of ASEAN at a meeting that included Australia, China, European Union, Japan, Russia, South Korea as well. The visit is part of an effort to renew American focus on the Indo-Pacific and look beyond conflicts in the Middle East and Europe. Also, Russia's Foreign Minister Sergei Lavrov has held talks with U.S. Secretary of State Marco Rubio at the sidelines of the ASEAN Foreign Ministers meeting. The meeting is the second in-person contact between Rubio and Lavrov. Now, this comes at a time when Washington is pressing hard to make progress on direct peace talks between Russia and Ukraine. Lavrov also met China's Wang Yi on sidelines of the ASEAN summit in Kuala Lumpur. The two sides praised the developments of political dialogue and practical cooperation amid increased turbulence in global relations. Moscow and Beijing both opposed plans to militarize the Asia-Pacific region, including attempts to place military infrastructure similar to the one NATO has. Now, for the upcoming academic year, a significant number of Indian students have been awarded Erasmus Plus scholarships. This opportunity allows students to immerse themselves in diverse academic environments, typically studying at multiple European universities and earning joint or multiple degrees. DD India's Jessica Taneja has spoken to EU Ambassador to India about the scholarship program and the potential of India-EU Free Trade Agreement.
We have with us the EU Ambassador to India. Thank you for speaking to DD India and taking our time. Now, Erasmus is an important scholarship program that the European Union, along with its partners, have had for more than a decade now. You said 101 students are going to various European universities this year. How important is this project for the European Union to engage with India and its youth?
I mean, this is a program that originally was designed to enhance mobility of students within the EU member states. So that was the origin of Erasmus, but we created Erasmus Mundus to increase the mobility and exchange between students of European Union member states and third countries. And in that respect, There is a great track record of between EU and India of mobility of students, because the Indian students have been historically the largest cohort of students coming from third countries and studying in Europe. Over 6,000 of them have already had the chance to use the Erasmus Mundus opportunity scholarship to go to the best universities in Europe and learn about Europe, the culture, the life experience, but also have access to top universities.
And this year has been an important year for both India and the European Union. We saw the visit of the European Commissioner, Ursula von der Leyen, along with her college commissioners as well. Perhaps the largest delegation ever visiting our country. The importance has been in the education sector, trade as well. There's an ongoing free trade agreement under discussion and negotiations, which both of them had agreed on would be finalized before this year ends. How is that coming along when it comes to advancing India-EU relations at this point? Where is it at this stage?
I think really the FTA will really give a further boost to the India economic relations with the EU, and likewise for the EU. I think we have the potential to double or triple our two-way trade. So we look confidently at this FTA being concluded by the end of the year, as intimated by the two leaders, and I think the negotiating teams are working hard to deliver that deal. I think it's gonna be a catalyst for the relationship in all sort of way. Already, there are 6,000 European companies working in India, generating directly or indirectly 8 million jobs. So can you imagine what FTA can do to boost that?
And still to come in this edition of DD India Live. Germany's largest automaker, Volkswagen, is experiencing both growth and challenges. We will take inputs from our DW correspondent in Berlin. And National Fish Farmers Day 2025 is being marked today. Fisheries sector has witnessed remarkable advancements over the years.
Geopolitics and trade deals. Economic challenges amid development. Hard work and the path to prosperity. It's the economy always. Between walkers, money is what money does and says. Supply creates its own demand. Between the bulls pulls and bears tears. When supply chains globalization and India rises to the podium. We'll get you centered with the Economic Brief at 8 p.m. every Thursday on DD India.
Welcome back. You're watching DD India Live. I'm Gautam Roy. Jawaharlal Nehru University in New Delhi is hosting the first annual academic conference on Indian knowledge systems. India's Vice President Jagdeep Dhankar addressed the inaugural session of the conference at JNU in New Delhi. Speaking at the event, the Vice President stressed that India must not merely import global narratives, adding that the country's rise as a global power should go hand in hand with the growth of its intellectual and cultural influence. He underlined that the strength of a nation lies in the originality of its thought, the timelessness of its values, and the resilience of its intellectual traditions.
The British colonization brought forth the second interlude, when Indian knowledge system was stunted, stymied, and subverted. We adopted their practices. Marxist perversion replaced colonial distortion. And friends, even today, the shadows of those colonial misreadings continue to shape textbooks, curricula, and minds. This conference, I believe strongly, stands as a serious academic endeavor to correct a historical wrong. Now is the time to cast off the chains of borrowed narratives, inherited distortions. It is time to reclaim our intellectual sovereignty.
The conference on Indian knowledge systems will continue till the 12th of this month. India's think tank Niti Aayog on Thursday released a report on a roadmap for strengthening State Science and Technology Council. The Aayog said that these councils must explore wider funding opportunities available with different departments of the central government. It also recommended that state governments should provide adequate financial resources to the councils to initiate new activities in advanced and emerging areas of S&T. The government think tank emphasized that it would be desirable that each state allocates at least 0.5% of its gross state domestic product to science and technology. National Fish Farmers Day 2025 is being marked today. Over the years, fisheries sector has witnessed remarkable advancements with constant effort of the Modi government in transforming the fisheries sector in a holistic way through the Blue Revolution in the country. Since 2015, the central government has invested 38,572 crore Indian rupees in the fisheries sector. As a result of these efforts, India's fish production has more than doubled. From 2014 to 2025, sector witnessed an astonishing growth of 104%. Indian fisheries and aquaculture alone have seen a 140% increase. The seafood exports have crossed 60,500 crore INR, affirming India's global leadership in shrimp exports. Shrimp production has jumped by 270% over the last decade. And cryptocurrency Bitcoin surged to a fresh all-time high of $112,000 early Thursday, driven by a mix of growing risk appetite, sustained institutional inflows, and macroeconomic optimism. The rally has come on the heels of dovish signals for the U.S. Federal Reserve and renewed investor confidence in digital assets. Since the beginning of the year, Bitcoin has advanced more than 18%. Bitcoin's rally also spread to other cryptocurrencies. Ether, the second largest digital currency, also rallied, hitting a one-month high of $2,795. Germany's largest automaker, Volkswagen, is out with some new numbers, and it seems the company is finally making progress in the electric vehicle segment. Lars Holter is with Deutsche Welle and is joining me from Berlin. Good evening to you, Lars. What can you tell us about Volkswagen's latest numbers?
Thanks for having me. Well, they are actually pretty good, at least at first glance. Volkswagen says they saw electric vehicle sales climb 14.3% during the first 6 months of the year to 193,000 vehicles. Now, these are the global numbers, whereas in Europe, sales were up an unbelievable 70%. And maybe even more important for the company, they're way better than Tesla's sales. And Tesla, mind you, used to be the #1 brand in the segment. For years, they were the technology leader. They were a fashionable brand. All that, of course, before CEO Elon Musk waded into the political swamp around Donald Trump. He ruined his reputation, dragged his company with him. Anyway, today, Tesla still has the most popular single model on the electric vehicle market in Europe, the Model Y, that is. But they just sold around 10,000 of them last month. And then the next 4 spots on the most popular list are all Volkswagen models. There is the brand new Skoda Elroy with over 9,000 sold in May. And then it's the VW main brands ID7, ID4 and ID3 with between 6,000 and 7,000 cars sold each.
Okay, that sounds good. But does that mean Volkswagen is back after the last couple of months when the company seemed to have had some really rough riding?
Well, I would assume that the mood over in Wolfsburg is a lot better these days, yes. But there's still a lot of problems for the company to fight through. And those latest numbers I just gave you, like I said, they're only really good at first glance. If you dig a little deeper, there are a few unpleasant details. Let's take a look again at that sales number, a plus of over 14%. That is great. However, that's compared to last year. And last year had been an enormously bad year for Volkswagen and for the sector in general. The German government had ended the generous electric vehicle subsidy and sales dropped steeply. Now, with these gains over the past 4 months, Volkswagen really just won some of the sales back that they had lost. And the other problem, margins are really tight. 0.5% for those models sold in the first half of this year. That's as Volkswagen ran some very successful sales programs. Now, those were obviously great to get people to buy a car, but they also cut into profits at a level that would not be sustainable for Volkswagen in the long run.
Well, Lars Holter, thank you so much for joining us with those inputs about Volkswagen and how it's showing us which way the European market is going where EVs are concerned. Now, the spread of artificial intelligence is virtually taking over every sector, and that also includes F&B. In Dubai, your dinner might soon come with a side of source code. Woohoo, a restaurant that bills itself as dining in the future, is set to open in September in central Dubai, a stone's throw from the world's tallest structure, the Burj Khalifa. Food at Woohoo will be assembled by humans. That's for now, but everything else, from the menu to ambience to service, will be designed by a culinarily large language model called Chef Eman. One of Woohoo's founders has said, Eman, a portmanteau of artificial intelligence and man, is trained on decades of food science research, molecular composition data, and more than 1,000 recipes from cooking traditions around the world. Fishermen are helping researchers to save an endangered salamander from extinction in Mexico's Lake Bazucuro. This Achoque is known for its gills resembling a lion's mane and for its ability to regenerate body parts.
On the tranquil waters of Mexico's Lake Pátzcuaro, Fräulein Cora has spent his whole life as a fisherman. But now, his nets carry something far more precious than fish. He and his fellow fishermen are fighting to save one of the lake's most extraordinary creatures, the achoque, a salamander with a lion-like mane and a magical ability to regenerate. Achoque, which is a rare species of amphibians, was once plentiful. Over years, this friendly-faced amphibian has been pushed to the brink of extinction by overfishing and pollution. Now, with the help from experts, locals are giving the achoque a second chance. Eggs are carefully collected and hatched in labs before the young salamanders are moved to a protected reserve, tended by fishermen until they are ready to return to the lake. For Mexico's indigenous communities, this small friendly-faced amphibian has been more than just food. It's a centuries-old remedy for respiratory illness. Now, the community is giving back, protecting a creature that has become a living link between their past and future. On the fragile surface of Lake Pátzcuaro, the fight for survival continues. Tripti Tripaঠি's report for DD India.
Now let's get you some more updates from around the world. Search teams on Thursday began scouring a lake south of the Philippine capital Manila for dozens of cockfighters allegedly murdered by rogue police. 15 police officers are under investigation over a spate of mysterious disappearances in 2022 in the country's huge cockfighting industry. Thailand's baby pygmy hippo and internet sensation Mudeng celebrated her first birthday on Thursday, devouring a massive tropical fruit platter alongside her mother as throngs of adoring fans turned up for a 4-day party. Mudeng, whose name means bouncing pig in Thai, was clearly having a feast. Now let's talk about some sports. Well, Serbian tennis icon Novak Djokovic has advanced to the semi-finals of Wimbledon. Djokovic took one step closer to a record-leveling 8th Wimbledon win as he battled past Flavio Cobolli. 2 more victories and Djokovic will be able to secure his record-extending 25th Grand Slam title. Djokovic's next challenger is world number 1 Jannik Sinner, who defeated Ben Shelton in the quarters. Sinner has a slight upper hand over Djokovic. He leads Djokovic 5-4 in a head-to-head. Sinner's latest win over Djokovic came in the French Open semi-finals last month. Also, we have the women's semi-finals will be being played later today. Well, world number 1 Aryna Sabalenka will make the 3rd Wimbledon semi-final appearance of her career when she faces American Amanda Anisimova on Thursday. In the 2nd semi-final of the women's singles, Iga Swiatek will face Switzerland's Belinda Bencic again on Thursday. And that's it for now in this edition of DD India Live, but do let us know your thoughts on the news of the day. And for those on the go, you can get all the latest news and updates from India and across the world on DD India's mobile app. It's available on both iOS and Android. You can scan the QR code on the screen to download the app right away. And we'll be back with more news as it breaks here on DD India. I'm Gautam Roy, and from all of us here in Delhi, thanks for watching DD India Live.